Good morning. So today I wanted to bring up a topic that um, that has always been kind of either under the surface or has always been present, but has picked up discussion lately, and that's some ways to work through feelings of anxiety. And so first, I guess the first question is, how has anxiety shown up for you, or maybe not for you, but has been described in some of your sessions, or how has anxiety been defined for you through your research?
Uh, like from my perspective, anxiety is more like a mental reaction to the maybe uncertainty, and we will feel rather like on edge, and we will feel that we are like losing control, and there are a lot of like other symptoms around anxiety, maybe like increase the heart beating, and like
I'm sorry, Yu Yang. The sound cut out there, but I did hear you say a lot of great things about anxiety, and you were mentioning some of the symptoms, both physical and emotional. The worry, you mentioned the worry and the feelings of lack of control and the uncertainty, as well as the physical heart racing. And there are also other symptoms that may be associated with anxiety as well. And that's a very great depiction of anxiety. So with that uncertainty can come excessive worrying. There can also be a quickening of the breath, or a feeling of not being able to breathe. Sometimes feeling of panic, and a lot of other feelings that, and even insecurities. And so so there's anxiety was kind of used as a way of protection for our ancestors. It's kind of the body's way of fight or flight, and that's healthy, to when you're being stalked by a predator, to run. However, anxiety, some theories say that this is the body's ineffective coping in that instance. So there's not really a physical threat, but still your body's in that fight or flight mode. So still those hormones are being released, and still that fight or flight system is in effect. So some people, when they're anxious, they may even be pacing. There may be anger. There may be a lot of different things going on when somebody's feeling anxious, because in that case, they may even be feeling attacked, depending on the anxiety. And so anxiety may have increased around or after the pandemic.
Oh my God, sorry for that. And my internet was like cut off just now. So can you hear me
Oh,
now?
I can hear you. I'm so sorry, Yu Yang. I was just kind of continuing with the different symptoms of
Oh,
the.
oh, sorry, you can go now.
No, 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 no. I'm sorry. So I really appreciated your take and your definition of anxiety. And then I was going into the kind of the mechanism in the body behind anxiety and how anxiety is when the threat is no longer there, according to some theories. And then how anxiety's been increasing now because of the pandemic. Do you feel, and a lot of other things going on? It's not just the pandemic. It's also been before that. There's a lot going on with a lot of different social things, like social events that have been happening. Do you feel that that there has been kind of an increase in anxiety lately?
Yeah, I totally agree with you because recently and everything is come back to normal and people need to like work uh in person and but we have been stay at home for a so long time and the social anxiety would increase a lot at this moment. Also, the pandemic is not completely over, and there is also other disease and the COVID, and people are still afraid of like getting infected. Uh, and there's also at this moment we still need to wear the masks to the work and everything is come back to the normal, but it's not as what we have been before. It's kind of like a new normal, so we need to like gradually adapt to this new normal and to see what we can do and to see what is going on from the in the world now. So there would be more like unknown in the world and need us to like maybe some people will have some like adjustment issue right now.
Thank you. I completely agree with you that in that increasing anxiety due to all those factors of that new sense of normal. What do you feel are some potential things people could do to help support themselves or alleviate some of those anxieties they may be facing um, during this time?
Firstly, I think we need to be mindful of our like ourselves and to do the self-care activities and have time for us to relax and uh, be aware of our mental status and do not like push ourselves too hard like and what is more, and I think it is also helpful if we have some uh, like we have some knowledge of doing the meditation or mindfulness activities like doing the deep breathing and grounding skills, which could also help us to relax at this moment and to help us to focus on here and now rather than like overthinking about all the uncertainty like and think about things we cannot control that is happens in the world.
So you mentioned a lot of great points there. So kind of instead of focusing on what you can't control, focusing on what you can control, like what you can do in the moment. Like you mentioned some mindfulness, anything that can be grounding, um, anything that, and the deep breaths. So physically trying to calm the body, seeing what you can handle in the moment. And those are all really great ways to help in that moment. Are there, in those times, would you feel that there are any support systems that could be beneficial, or any resources?
Yeah, firstly, I think it is good for us to keep contact with our like family and friends. If I know it is hard for us to do that during the pandemic and everyone is like kind of like quarantined at home, but now everything is open up and we can just start to get contact to maybe family members live far away from us. And also I think there is a lot of like resources online, like support group and like the like Facebook group or something, like a therapeutic group we can find online. So there's a lot of like social support, especially during this time.
I agree. So like even your own your social supports, but also even like supports online, and some that may even be in your community. Additionally, do you feel it could be beneficial, those supports like within yourself, like looking within yourself at the strengths that you may have, and that's definitely can be hard, but to take a second and try to ask yourself, what strengths do I have in this moment that can get me through, and rely on those.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for that. And I think it is rather important for us to know get more self-awareness at this moment, because we have more time to stay by ourselves and to deal with the loneliness and to think a lot of stuff that we didn't have time to think about like at past. So yeah, so I agree with that. It is good for us to focus on our strengths and like learn to how to kind of better interact with our inner self and gain more self awareness, and to use our like strength and our resilience to help us go through this period.
I like that term, that term self-awareness. And I also like the point you raised of turning within yourself and maybe even taking a look at that self-talk. seeing what you're saying to yourself. So in that moment of anxiety, seeing what that anxiety is saying. What am I anxious about? What is that anxiety really saying? Um, and then when you see what that anxiety is saying, well, is that true? And if that's true, what proof do I have to show that that's true? So kind of putting that anxiety or that thought up on a like on trial, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a good point that it's not for us to know better about ourselves, but know better about the anxiety. And it's more like to know what anxiety brings us and what it is like, and it could help us to gain like more knowledge about the anxiety itself, and so that we would gradually get familiar with it, so we wouldn't be so like afraid of being anxious, and know how to get along with the anxiety and gradually become more like know how to deal with it and know how to live with it and know how to like gain a new coping strategies to deal with all the stuff happening around us.
Mm-hmm. Right. So to be able to kind of just be with it and accept it, and then be able that, and you feel that in that you're able to gather more coping skills.
Yeah, when we know like when we know what is anxiety and where does it come from, and why it is keep like bothering me or something like that, and we could know better how it impact our lives, so we can then try to figure out some like specific strategies which could help us to deal with this triggers and deal with these factors makes us become rather anxious.
Right. And you mentioned so earlier you mentioned that some ways to work through that anxiety could be through grounding. Are there any grounding techniques that you have tried that have been helpful for you or that you have recommended to clients?
Yeah, and I think one of the uh, like maybe most just easiest and most like practical way is doing the deep breathing, and it could help us to calm down like in a short period of time. And also I would use the like body awareness exercise, and to there are some like guidance that could help the clients focus on their body and their muscles and to get fully relaxed during a session. And when they try to focus on their body change, and they would be more like grounded at the moment and be more focused on uh, their themselves. And it's like something like just like clench the fist and release the tension, and something like to wiggle the toes and curl them several times, something like that, to help the clients to focus on their body.
Mhm. So the deep breathing um, is is great. And then you're mentioning the body awareness. So really kind of just focusing, taking a minute and awareness of your own body, even focusing on just different um, areas of the body or the breath in the body. And then the progressive muscle relaxation and guided meditations, or even just guided grounding. Um, those are all really great grounding exercises um, that could be very helpful when somebody is feeling triggered. Um, and now, thanks to apps like Mindspace and even YouTube, and other websites, they're a lot more accessible on the go. For some people, they can also be found online, or even some of the exercises can be memorized, like the breathing. And the box breathing is a pretty simple one, and that's inhaling for 4 breaths, holding for 4 breaths, and then exhaling for 4 breaths and holding for 4 breaths. And that's kind of that's one that I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for sharing all of them. Those are all really great tips. Um, so do you have any any closing remarks on anxiety, or on any ways to help work through anxiety, or work through the uncertainty, especially in times like these?
I think we have concluded almost the most everything about the coping strategies. And one thing I wanna like add to is that we need to help the clients find out the trigger of their anxiety, and maybe use the cognitive behavioral therapy to find out how these triggers affect them, and what their thinking process of this triggers, and maybe like using like cognitive reforming, and to see whether there is any cognitive distortion. And so in this way we can help the clients to change their reactions and their behaviors, and maybe the following emotions uh, after the triggering like activating events.
Thank you. Thank you. You're right. That is a very important point. It is very important to get to the root of the trigger. Um, and even some ways to begin exploring this would be to track these symptoms. So track when the anxiety starts, and maybe even jot down what may have been happening at that time. So whether journaling or keeping a chart, um, that can be helpful. Um, so thank you. You're right that it is very important to get to the bottom of that. Um, and then that looking at what may be going on, if there may be any distortions, any cognitive distortions, and that cognitive behavioral therapy could be helpful, and that therapy could be helpful in helping a client through their anxiety. Um, So thank you. And I know at L'Arte Wellness there are a lot of therapists ready to help any clients who may be struggling with anxiety or depression or just some issues that may be going on in their lives. And that can be found on the website. Um, that's L'Arte Wellness, lartewellness.com. Um, and there's also some resources on there as well. So thank you, Yu Yang, for all the information and everything you've provided today. And I thank everybody else.